Hi, everybody. Welcome to the April 20th, 2018 edition of Colorado Inside Out Postgame, a special web-exclusive production here on Channel 12. I'm your host, Dominic Dezzutti. Let's get a quick take on Mayor Hancock's office coming under more fire this week as an open records request made on behalf of a variety of media sources became public. The investigation showed that $1.4 million has been spent on sexual harassment settlements and legal fees stemming to the incident 6 years ago involving a member of the mayor's staff. Patty, I did it last week. I'm going to say it again. Both Eric and David and I all thought this issue was over with. It was done. The city wasn't going to investigate. You were the wise one, as usual, at the table saying, this isn't over. It clearly is not over. It only gets worse. Tell us more about that open records request and why it took an amalgam of different media sources to pull it off.
Well, open records requests, they are protected. I mean, there are rules in Colorado. Public officials are supposed to comply with them with a few, some exceptions, personnel exceptions, legal exceptions. And when, right after, in the wake of the Leslie Branch Weiss revelation, people were they wanted travel records, they wanted the Wayne McDonald and Leslie Branch Weiss, their settlement deals, the attorney deals, and the prices quoted were so high that a group, and I think Craig Silverman was in the lead, got a bunch of people together to pay for them, $1,400. Those records finally came back. It takes a while to pull those records together. And let me correct you a little bit. It's $500,000 are related to the sex harassment cases. The Wayne McDonald settlement, the Leslie Branch Weiss settlement, and the legal fees around that. The rest are involved with other deals, including Stuart Shapiro, who had been at the city attorney's office.
Gotcha.
So, and they paid a lot more in the settlement to him and legal fees involved with that because you have to have outside people work it out. We're not even counting the city attorney's time. So that was one case. A lot of money has been spent on these different Hancock issues. Then, of course, we had another open records request from Channel 4 to come up with how much the trip to Paris cost and who got to fly in the front of the plane and who got to fly in the back of the plane. I noticed the security people had to sit in the back of the plane, which might be where all this trouble starts from in the first place.
Indeed. Michael Fields from Americans for Prosperity. There's a lot going on here. I mean, the mayor's had some bad weeks, but between this all coming out, which does not make for good headlines, right on the heels of the Paris report, which just sounds nuts. And this is April. We're not even to a sweeps month when all the different investigative teams around the TV stations around the city are going to really turn it up. So it may get worse. What were your reactions seeing some of the headlines this week?
Yeah, it was a bad week for the mayor for sure. I think it's never the first thing that really gets you. It's either a pattern coming out or a cover-up. And with these, having to go through the core request process, it not being transparent from the start of how much is being spent on this, it makes people wonder what else is out there. And I think reporters are going to keep going after this stuff until they find more. I also think though that this could impact indirectly the governor's race because Kerry Kennedy was the CFO during the time of these different settlements and was asked about it in a recent debate and said that she had no idea that this was going on. And it seems like a lot of money to not know what's happening with it. And so either, she should have known, either she did know or that she should have known.
Well, there's a law, and I'm not a lawyer, nor to even play one on TV, but I thought there was a law, at least on the city books, that you didn't have to go through some settlements. You didn't have to go through a CFO. But I agree that. But even if that law exists, it's going to become a question.
Sure. So the Leslie Branch Weiss one was fine.
Gotcha.
I mean, she didn't have to know about it. Often city council has to sign off on them.
Well, see, there you go. Eric Sonnen, political analyst, you had mentioned it's like, well, hey, this can be over unless there's more drips. And this seems like a pretty drippy faucet to me, even though it's not a new sexual harassment claim or anything like that. It's just more stuff from this same thing. What do you think?
Drip is the word. I start my commentary on this, it seems like every week or every other week with the phrase drip, drip, drip. And that faucet continues to drip, and I think the drips are, getting a little heavier these days. The whole settlement issue, just the volume of settlements, and now we learn that the legal costs attached to each settlement in many cases outweigh the price of the settlement itself. That is a political issue out there waiting for somebody to jump on it and run pretty darn far with it, I think, potentially. The whole story about the Paris trip, first of all, the DIA's spin on it was so over the top, and no one's going to buy that
Paris
spin.
Is more expensive?
Exactly. It's ridiculous spin, and we have to, our people are so valuable, we have to sit up front in the comfortable seats so we're ready to hit the ground running. And You know, federal government, I think, allows that if you're in the air 12 hours or 14 hours. Denver apparently allows it if it's a trip of more than 5 hours. Let's get real here. That tells me one of two things about Michael Hancock, because let's not forget the mayor's election is somewhere between 12 and 13 months away as we speak right now. So no one's focusing on it quite yet because we have this November, but it is coming up pretty quickly. And I think Michael Hancock is in precarious shape. You need a horse. You can't beat somebody with nobody. And the question is who that somebody is going to be to take him on. But to do this Paris trip and to countenance the kind of rationale they put out, it tells me either he's much more comfortable than we think he is with his political position, or that maybe he's not running for re-election. Because, and I have no inside information about that, but this was not a move that a politician a year away from a re-election thinking he's in jeopardy, it was not a move that that kind of politician makes.
Susan Green from Colorado Independent, thank you for joining us. It's been a while since we have you on the panel. Susan, as Eric alluded to, that we've already heard from some activists who are running for mayor next year and some impressive fundraising gains, but names that I think, unless you're really into the nitty-gritty of Denver politics, you may not have heard of. Do you think that when you see headlines like this, maybe there's some bigger names or even some more support for those activists that will come out because of what we're seeing?
I hope so. And I also hope that the race doesn't pivot around what you all are describing as drips, because there are bigger faucets going on in this city, way bigger than a text to a former security detail person and a trip to Paris. This is an administration that has paid out millions and millions of dollars, and in comparison to other cities, way more in excessive force lawsuits and settlements. This is an administration that is virtually not accessible to the public. They stonewall public information requests all the time. The fact that they charged $1,200 for this particular open records request is ridiculous and also just tone deaf. And what's even sort of scarier about our city is that it requires a consortium of media outlets to pay $1,200 for that type of document. I mean, that says something so scary about what are the resources in these newsrooms, who's watching City Hall. And this is a City Hall that needs to be watched far more closely than it has.
It's an excellent point about the consortium actually being needed. You see these folks who would not have been in any sort of effort together except for something like this. It's a good point. That is all the time we have for CIO Postgame this week. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. For everyone here at CPT12.org, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thanks for watching.